In this video, I'm going to show you how to make 6 different minion face cookies. They're pretty simple. All you need is a round cookie, and then I used a flood consistency royal icing in yellow, black, white, brown, and gray. I also used an edible food marker for the smiles and hair details, but that's not necessary. You could just use black or yellow icing for those instead. All 6 of the designs start the same way, with outlining and flooding the entire cookie with yellow icing. You'll need to let the icing dry before you move on to the next steps. I waited a full hour. You don't necessarily need to wait that long, but at minimum 20 minutes. But the longer you wait, the less issues you'll have. After the yellow icing is dry, we'll come back and start the goggles. 3 of the designs are going to have just one eye, and so we're just making a big gray circle. I'm doing an outer outline, an inner outline, and then I'm flooding in between. Circles are deceivingly difficult, so don't stress too much if they're a little wonky. If you look at my photo, none of them are perfect, but they're still really cute. I let that gray circle dry for about 20 minutes and then came back to start on the eye. All the cookies that have eyes we're doing the same way, so it's a wet on wet technique. So we're gonna do most of the eye in white, leave some space to then fill in with the brown iris, and then we're gonna add the black pupil in the middle, and then a white highlight that goes over between the black pupil and the brown iris. So it's a wet on wet technique because we're adding all of these icings before the previous color dries. So it all sinks down and it's the same level. And then right away you can grab your black icing and we're gonna make these straps on the goggles. These are very basic. It's just 2 outlines on either side and then flooding in between. If you decide to use an edible food marker for these hair and smile details, I would suggest letting the icing dry for a full 24 hours before you use the marker. If you use it too soon after you flood, it can poke holes in the icing and that's not really easy to repair. So for this first one, I just made a simple little crooked smile and then 6 little dashes of hair above the eye. The second design is pretty much exactly the same as the first one, except we're doing different hair across the top. I did 4 little dashes, and I'm doing an open mouth smile. The third design, I had the eye closed, and so instead of doing the white eye with all the wet on wet details, I did a yellow eye, just completely filled it in, and I took my black icing, did a wet on wet line straight across. And then again, right away you can take your black icing and make these straps on the sides of the goggles. And then this one, I did lots of dashes across the forehead for the hair, and then I made his mouth just like an open circle that I filled in, so it kind of looks like he's sleeping. The last 3 designs are different from the first 3 because it's going to have 2 eyes instead of just 1. And so everything else is pretty much the same though. So you just start by doing 2 gray circles for the goggles. And because I'm keeping this really simple, I just did the goggles back to back. I didn't wait for them to dry in between. And so they do kind of merge together in the center. But for me, that didn't bother me because I'm just keeping it really easy. But if you wanted, you could do one goggle, let it dry, and then come back to the other one. They'd have a line of definition in between the 2. After that dry for about 20 minutes, I'm coming back and doing the eyes. Again, it's completely the same as the first 2 cookies, except we're doing 2 eyes instead of 1. And so you do the outer white part of the eye, leave a little gap in the center for the brown icing, and then after the brown, you'll add the black and a little white highlight all in a row. So it's a wet on wet detail, so they all sink down to the same level. And then again, after you finish with the eyes, you can take your black icing and make these straps on the sides of the goggles. For this one, I just kept it really simple and I just did a basic smile and I didn't add any hair above the eyes. This one is very similar to the previous one. We're doing 2 eyes the same way as all the other ones with the wet on wet steps. The only difference is I made him cross-eyed. And so instead of having the brown icing in the center of the eye, I have it more towards the inner corners. And then once you finish with the eyes, you can take your black icing and finish these straps on the sides of the goggles. I wanted this guy to look like really goofy and like really happy, and so I did just 3 little hairs on top, and then I made him have a really wide open smile. So you make like the top curve as you would for any basic smile, and then the bottom line of the smile goes pretty deep, and then I filled it all in between with black. And this last minion has closed eyes again. I wanted to have a variety of expressions, and so this one, I just wanted him to have his eyes closed and look really content. And so I filled in the goggles with yellow icing, and then I took my black icing to do a wet on wet line, but instead of going straight across, I made it curved going down. And just like all the other designs, you can take your black icing and right away do the straps on the sides of the goggles. And like I mentioned, I wanted him to look really content. And so for the hair, I did 3 basic lines. And then for the smile, I did 1 longer, wider line. So there you have it. We have 6 basic Minion cookies with a circle cookie cutter. Feel free to use these designs or mix and match the different types of hair and smiles and goggles. I wanted to give some ideas for how to have a character cookie while keeping it simple, and they're really cute.